Welcome to Soul Reset, from burnout to breakthrough. I'm so glad you're here, taking this first step toward reclaiming your energy, your focus, and your life. This book isn't just about advice. It's a guide, a companion, and a roadmap to help you break free from overwhelm and step into your true potential. Together, we'll explore practical strategies, inspiring insights, and motivating exercises designed to transform your daily habits, quiet the mental chaos, and reignite your passion. So take a deep breath, and let's begin your journey from burnout to breakthrough. Soul Reset, from burnout to breakthrough. A transformational guide to reclaim your energy, purpose, and inner strength. Simo Benn. About the book, Soul Reset, from burnout to breakthrough is a call to confront the silent crisis overwhelming millions across the modern world. It challenges the belief that exhaustion is the cost of ambition and reminds the reader that a life devoid of inner purpose will eventually collapse under its own weight. Burnout is not just a psychological ailment. It is a spiritual warning that you have drifted too far from who you are meant to be. This book exposes how we lose ourselves when we chase validation, maintain impossible expectations, and sacrifice well-being for approval. It explains how physical fatigue, emotional disconnection, and chronic stress are the body's final attempts to alert you that something fundamental is out of alignment. Ignoring these signals leads only to further fragmentation. The path forward requires courage. You must be willing to dismantle the false identity that external pressures have forced upon you. Soul Reset guides the reader through that transformation with practical tools rooted in neuroscience and timeless philosophy. You will learn how to restore your energy, develop emotional resilience, and rebuild a life grounded in meaning rather than performance. This is a roadmap for those who refuse to accept a life of numbness and despair. It is for the caregiver who cannot remember the last time they cared for themselves. It is for the high achiever who has discovered that success feels empty without inner alignment. It is for anyone who knows there is more to life than surviving. Your suffering can become the catalyst for a profound rebirth. Through self-honesty, personal responsibility, and a renewed connection to purpose, you can convert burnout into breakthrough. Soul Reset offers a direct challenge to reclaim your inner strength. Stand up. Tell the truth. Begin again with a soul that is awake and a future that is authentically yours. Introduction. The hidden crisis, when success costs your soul. Burnout is the evidence that something inside you has been asking for attention and you have ignored it for far too long. It is not simply the result of working hard or dealing with pressure. It is the consequence of forgetting yourself in the pursuit of being what everyone else needs you to be. When you push your mind and body past their limits, when you deny your emotional needs because you fear being seen as weak, when you sacrifice joy for survival, something inside you breaks. Not loudly at first. The soul fractures quietly. You did not arrive here by accident. You arrived here because you care. Because you were willing to work harder, hold more responsibility, and keep going when others quit. Burnout often happens to the strongest among us, not the weakest. The people who collapse are the ones who refuse to stop. They are the professionals who believe their worth came from their performance. They are the caregivers who gave everything they had to support others, leaving nothing for themselves. They are the entrepreneurs and dreamers who measured their identity by creation and progress, only to discover that ambition without grounding can become a trap. No one prepares us for the moment when success stops feeling like success. You hit goals. You achieve results. People admire you. From the outside, your life looks enviable. Inside, you feel hollow. The more you try to impress the world, the more disconnected you become from your own heart. Exhaustion becomes normal. Anxiety becomes routine. The spark that once fueled your mission grows dim. Eventually, you wake one day and realize that you cannot keep going this way. Something must change. Burnout is a message. It is your body telling you that the cost of continuing on your current path is too high. If you ignore it, the consequences intensify. Fatigue transforms into physical illness. Stress mutates into panic. The loss of motivation becomes the loss of identity. Once the soul becomes depleted, life loses its color. You no longer feel the highs of excitement or the relief of accomplishment. You operate like a machine, not a human being. This book is a refusal to let you remain in that state. It is an invitation to step back into your life with honesty and courage, to stop pretending that you are fine when you are increasingly falling apart, to admit the truth. The version of you that earned praise and recognition is not the full truth of who you are. You deserve more than a life that drains you to the point of collapse. You deserve a life where success and well-being coexist, where purpose is not sacrificed to productivity, where achievement does not cost your soul. We live in a culture that worships progress but fears stillness. The modern world rewards burnout as a sign of dedication. People admire the ones who grind through pain because they believe struggle is proof of worth. We are told to push harder, climb faster, and smile while drowning. The result is a silent epidemic of internal collapse. Millions are barely holding on. Millions are pretending they are okay. Maybe you are one of them. Burnout strips away illusions. It forces you to confront what is real. It demands a reckoning with your values, your boundaries, your inner voice. It shakes the foundation you built your life on. That disruption hurts. The transformation that follows can be extraordinary. Every breakdown contains the blueprint of a breakthrough. To recover, you must understand what led you here. You must see the patterns that drained you. You must acknowledge the parts of yourself that you abandoned. This includes the ambition that once lifted you up, the compassion that drove you to care, the creativity that made you build something from nothing. These are not flaws. They are strengths used without limits or wisdom. I will not offer false comfort or empty positivity. Nothing changes until you take responsibility for the state of your life. That does not mean blaming yourself. It means owning the opportunity that stands before you. You are capable of rebuilding. You can rise from this. Burnout is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a more authentic one. Your soul is calling for a reset, a return to alignment, a return to presence, a return to the self you left behind. This book will help guide you there. There is a moment in every burnout journey that feels like a confession, even if no words are spoken. You look at your life and admit that something is terribly off. You realize that despite everything you have accomplished, you do not feel accomplished. You are living in a contradiction. You are outwardly successful and inwardly collapsing. You are surrounded by people, yet feel profoundly alone. You are constantly in motion, but going nowhere meaningful. This is the crisis modern society never trained us for. We were taught to chase goals, but not how to sustain ourselves in the pursuit. We were shown how to succeed, but not how to feel alive. We learned ambition like a survival skill, carrying it into adulthood, as if slowing down meant falling behind. The pressure to be someone impressive has replaced the desire to be someone whole. Burnout emerges in the space between who you are expected to be and who you truly are. You may have spent years or decades building a life that looks stable from the outside, a career others respect, a family you provide for, responsibilities that prove your reliability. Yet inside, something is weakening. There is a voice you have pushed aside that keeps whispering one persistent question. Is this all there is? You try to silence the voice through productivity. You tell yourself to push harder, stay busy, resist rest. Rest feels dangerous because it forces you to feel again. Stillness reveals truths that achievement can temporarily bury. So you keep moving, hoping progress will quiet the discomfort. It never does. Eventually, the exhaustion catches up, not the kind that sleep fixes, the kind that drains your soul. High performers often suffer the most because they attach their identity to their ability to endure. Caregivers suffer because they believe that their own needs are secondary. Entrepreneurs suffer because their dreams grow heavier than their energy to carry them. Each path leads to the same place. You forget your own humanity. The tragedy is that society praises the very behavior that destroys you. It celebrates the worker who never rests. It idolizes the parent who sacrifices every need. It glorifies the startup founder who sleeps 3 hours a night. Burnout becomes a badge of honor. People admire your endurance while ignoring your suffering. We are conditioned to believe that discomfort means progress. Yet discomfort can also mean destruction. Pain can be a guide or a warning. The difference depends on whether you listen. Ignoring burnout is like ignoring a fire alarm because you are busy working. Eventually, the house burns down while you are still trying to meet the deadline. You cannot outrun yourself. No amount of productivity will compensate for a life stripped of purpose. No level of success will heal a soul that feels invisible. Burnout exposes the gap between achievement and meaning. It demands that you face the truth you have avoided. You have become disconnected. There is a deep moral courage in admitting that your worth does not depend on performance. It means stepping out of the hierarchy of comparison and entering the humility of truth. You are not more valuable when you win, nor less valuable when you fail. You are valuable because you exist. That truth sounds simple, but living it requires the dismantling of an entire psychological architecture built on fear. It requires grieving the years spent chasing approval. It requires forgiving yourself for the times you mistook compliance for love. In time, you come to see that the very traits that once enslaved you, sensitivity, empathy, responsibility, can be redeemed when anchored in truth. When you no longer please others out of fear, your kindness becomes genuine. When you no longer strive for perfection out of shame, your excellence becomes joy. When you stop performing, you finally have the energy to live. The psychology of overwhelm is not merely about stress. It is about misalignment. You are exhausted because you have been trying to earn what was already yours. Freedom begins the moment you stop chasing worth and start embodying it. The moment you stop asking, "Am I enough?" and start declaring, "I am here." That is the birth of inner peace, the first step out of the storm and into authenticity. Breaking the survival loop. Understanding the nervous system under pressure. There is a moment in every collapse when the body decides it can no longer participate in the illusion. Long before your mind admits defeat, your physiology begins to wave the white flag. The fatigue that sleep cannot cure, the tension that no massage releases, the anxiety that flares without warning. These are not random malfunctions. They are signals of a system trapped in survival mode. To break the cycle of burnout, you must first understand that it is not simply psychological. It is biological. The human nervous system is a masterpiece of evolution, designed for temporary stress followed by restoration. When danger appears, the body mobilizes through the sympathetic branch. Adrenaline surges, heart rate increases, focus sharpens. When safety returns, the parasympathetic system restores balance, slowing the heart, deepening the breath, bringing calm. But when stress becomes constant, the recovery phase disappears. The body never receives the signal that the threat is over. You remain perpetually mobilized, living as if every day were an emergency. Over time, this chronic activation becomes your baseline. You start mistaking tension for energy, busyness for purpose, urgency for meaning. The nervous system, wired for survival, cannot distinguish between a predator in the wild and an overflowing inbox. It responds to emotional pressure with the same biochemical alarm as physical danger. The result is a life lived in physiological overdrive, your body burning fuel meant for sprinting while you try to run a marathon. This is the essence of the survival loop: threat, reaction, exhaustion, repeat. Every time you push through fatigue, suppress emotion, or override intuition, you reinforce the loop. The brain learns that stillness is unsafe, that slowing down invites danger. Even rest triggers anxiety because the system equates relaxation with vulnerability. The irony is tragic. You long for peace, yet peace feels terrifying. Psychologically, the survival loop is sustained by unprocessed fear. The nervous system's primary question is not "Am I successful?" but "Am I safe?" When life feels out of control, the brain compensates through hypervigilance and overthinking. You analyze every detail, plan for every outcome, manage every interaction, believing that control will bring calm. But control is the nervous system's counterfeit of safety. It keeps you busy while avoiding the deeper terror of surrender. Many high achievers live their entire lives in this state, chronically braced, eternally striving. Their minds race even in sleep. Their bodies hold tension as identity. They confuse the adrenaline of accomplishment with vitality, unaware that what they call motivation is often anxiety in disguise. The tragedy is that this state is unsustainable. The hormones that keep you sharp in crisis eventually corrode your health. Cortisol disrupts immunity, sleep, and digestion. The nervous system, flooded with stress chemistry, begins to malfunction. Emotional regulation collapses. Small problems trigger disproportionate reactions. You cry without warning. You feel detached from joy. You lose trust in your own resilience. The first step to breaking the survival loop is to recognize it not as weakness, but as adaptation. Your body is not betraying you. It is protecting you. Every panic attack, every moment of overwhelm, is the body's way of saying, I can't keep pretending this is fine. The nervous system cannot lie. It will force honesty when the mind refuses. This realization changes everything. Instead of fighting your body, you begin listening to it. Instead of resenting symptoms, you begin interpreting them. Fatigue becomes feedback. Anxiety becomes information. From a neurological perspective, safety is not an idea, it is an experience. You cannot think your way into calm. You must feel it. That means cultivating physical states that teach the nervous system it can relax again. Breath work, mindful movement, grounding, time in nature. These are not luxuries. They are rewiring tools. Each slow exhale tells your brain, the danger has passed. Each act of stillness retrains your body to believe in safety. Over time, the loop weakens. The adrenaline storms subside. The parasympathetic system reclaims its rightful place as the governor of peace. But the biology of safety must be matched by the psychology of honesty. You cannot calm a nervous system while continuing to live in contradiction. Every time you say yes when you mean no, your body registers betrayal. Every time you suppress anger to avoid conflict, your heart rate spikes. Every time you force productivity while yearning for rest, your muscles tighten. The body keeps a moral ledger. It records every moment you abandon yourself. To heal, you must begin to live in alignment again. Breaking the survival loop, therefore, requires a double courage. The courage to feel and the courage to change. Feeling means allowing the emotions you have numbed for years to surface: grief, fear, anger, shame. Change means adjusting your life so that those emotions no longer need to scream to be heard. It might mean setting boundaries that disappoint others. It might mean leaving a job that glorifies exhaustion. It might mean resting when the culture demands performance. These are not signs of failure. They are acts of reclamation. Philosophically, the survival loop mirrors the human condition itself, the struggle between instinct and consciousness, fear and freedom. To live unconsciously is to remain enslaved by survival. To awaken is to see that the threat was never external. The lion you've been running from exists in your mind. The fear of not being enough, the terror of disapproval, the illusion that you must earn safety. When you face that inner predator directly, its power dissolves. What remains is presence, the still point beneath the panic. True safety is not the absence of challenge. It is the confidence that you can meet reality without abandoning yourself. It is the ability to feel fear without being ruled by it. When the nervous system learns that truth, energy returns. Not the frantic energy of adrenaline, but the grounded energy of peace. You no longer live as a reaction to danger, but as a response to life. Breaking the survival loop does not mean eliminating stress. It means transforming your relationship with it. Stress becomes information, not identity. Effort becomes expression, not escape. You begin to notice the subtle shifts, the deeper breath before a decision, the quiet pause before a reaction, the gentle awareness that you can choose differently. This is how resilience is rebuilt, not through force, but through presence. If burnout is the body's rebellion against a false life, then healing is the body's reunion with truth. Every calm breath, every boundary honored, every moment of rest becomes a vote for a different future. The nervous system, once enslaved to fear, begins to trust you again. And that trust is sacred. It is the foundation upon which all renewal is built. Eventually, you realize something profound. Peace is not found at the end of accomplishment, but at the end of resistance. When you stop fighting your body, when you stop fleeing your emotions, when you stop living as if danger is everywhere, you discover that safety was never outside you. It was the state of being you abandoned when you chose performance over presence. Returning to it is the beginning of freedom. Letting go of who you should be, dismantling false roles, and confronting the ego. Every human being eventually faces a quiet reckoning. The realization that the person they have been performing is not the person they truly are. At first, this truth feels like loss. You grieve the identity that once brought stability, the titles, the achievements, the polished mask that earned you belonging. Yet beneath that grief lies liberation. For the first time, you begin to suspect that the life you built to be enough was never yours to begin with. To let go of who you should be is to confront the most sophisticated illusion of all, the ego. The ego is not evil, it is necessary. It allows you to over time, integration transforms your sense of time itself. You begin to live less in anticipation and more in participation. Each moment becomes complete, not a stepping stone to somewhere better. The future loses its tyranny because meaning is found now. You stop postponing peace for the day when everything aligns and begin realizing that peace is what allows everything to align. In the language of the psyche, integration is individuation, the process Jung described as becoming who you truly are. It is not about achieving perfection, but about uniting all the parts of yourself, light and shadow, child and adult, ego and essence, into one coherent whole. You no longer reject your contradictions, you harmonize them. You become both grounded and fluid, firm and compassionate, structured and spontaneous. And this, perhaps, is the quiet miracle of integration. It turns healing from an event into a lifestyle. You no longer wait for balance, you practice it. You no longer chase authenticity, you embody it. You no longer treat self-care as recovery, you treat it as maintenance. Life ceases to be a project of endless repair and becomes a living expression of inner truth. Integration is not glamorous. It is subtle, rhythmic, sometimes tedious, but it is the only way to make transformation endure. Without integration, even the most profound insight dissolves back into habit. With it, ordinary days become sacred. Washing dishes becomes meditation. Speaking truth becomes worship. Living becomes prayer. When you live integrated, you stop oscillating between extremes of effort and collapse. You move through the world with quiet authority, the authority of someone who no longer needs to prove or perform. You act from wholeness rather than from hunger. And in that steadiness, life begins to respond differently. Opportunities align effortlessly. Relationships deepen without effort. Energy circulates instead of draining. The outer world begins to mirror your inner order. This is the heart of integration, not changing the world to match your peace, but maintaining your peace regardless of the world. Designing systems for resilience. Discipline as devotion. Resilience is not built in crisis, it is built in rhythm. The ability to withstand chaos depends on the structures you cultivate in calm. What breaks most people is not the weight of life itself, but the absence of a system strong enough to carry it. When every day is improvised, when your well-being depends on motivation or mood, stability becomes fragile. To thrive, you must design your life deliberately, not as a rigid machine, but as a sacred ecosystem. This is where discipline returns, not as punishment, but as devotion. For years, discipline was a source of pressure, the internal whip that drove you toward impossible standards. You associated it with self-denial, perfectionism, control. But true discipline is not suppression, it is stewardship. It is the commitment to protect what is precious, your peace, your focus, your vitality. It is the art of creating containers through which freedom can flow. Freedom without form dissolves into chaos. The ocean, uncontained, would flood the earth. The mind, unstructured, floods itself. Systems are the boundaries through which your energy becomes creative rather than destructive. They are not prisons, but pathways. When you design systems that reflect your truth, you no longer rely on willpower alone. You align your environment and behavior so that what is right becomes natural. Psychologically, resilience requires predictability. The nervous system, once shattered by burnout, heals through consistency. Regular sleep, consistent meals, predictable routines, all send the signal, you are safe. Safety allows the higher mind to re-engage, creativity to flourish, and discipline to feel nourishing rather than oppressive. Every repetition of structure teaches your body that peace is reliable. Start small. Create morning rituals that ground you. A few minutes of breath, a stretch, a reflection before screens. Protect the first moments of the day from intrusion. They are your foundation. Then build gentle rhythms into the rest of your day. Schedule breaks as deliberately as tasks. Eat without multitasking. Rest before exhaustion demands it. End your evenings with closure, not collapse. A ritual that signals the nervous system it can release vigilance. These practices are simple, but they are sacred. In a culture addicted to stimulation, simplicity is rebellion. To keep order in your life is not to be rigid. It is to be respectful. You are saying to yourself, my energy is valuable. My presence deserves structure. My peace is worth planning for. There is also a moral dimension to discipline. It represents integrity, the alignment between intention and action. When you do what you said you would do, even when no one is watching, you strengthen the bridge between thought and reality. That bridge is trust. The more consistent your actions, the more your psyche begins to believe your own promises. This is self-respect in motion. But discipline must remain flexible, or it will turn into another form of tyranny. Systems should serve the soul, not suffocate it. Structure must bend to season and circumstance. There will be days when the schedule breaks, when chaos intrudes, when your best effort falters. Let it. The goal is not perfection, but sustainability. Rigidity breaks under pressure. Adaptability bends and returns. True resilience is not the absence of disruption. It is the capacity to recalibrate without collapsing. Philosophically, discipline can be understood as devotion to reality. It is saying yes to the limitations that make life possible. To show up daily, to practice, to persist, these are not signs of control, but of reverence. You are honoring the truth that greatness, peace, and purpose are not achieved in bursts but in cycles. The river does not rush to the ocean. It follows its course faithfully. So does the resilient soul. In designing your systems, think of them as rituals of alignment, not mechanisms of efficiency. You are not trying to extract maximum output from your life, but to sustain maximum meaning. Ask yourself, what rhythms keep me connected to truth? What structures protect my energy from scattering? Your answers may be humble. A morning walk, a weekly reflection, a limit on digital noise. But consistency turns humility into power. The science of resilience supports this. Studies in behavioral psychology show that routine enhances cognitive stability and emotional regulation. Predictable patterns reduce anxiety by lowering the brain's demand for decision-making. Each small routine conserves willpower for moments that matter. What feels monotonous to the ego is medicine for the nervous system. Discipline also creates time's paradoxical gift, spaciousness. When your days are structured around intention, you experience more freedom within them. The mind no longer wastes energy managing chaos. It moves within known rhythms. Creativity flourishes not in disorder, but in containment. The artist needs the canvas. The musician needs the measure. The soul needs the system. Still, you must remain vigilant against the old identity of over-control. The perfectionist will try to reclaim discipline as domination, counting every minute, tracking every metric, turning ritual into performance. Resist that temptation. The purpose of discipline is not to master time, but to belong to it, to find harmony within its flow. You are not here to optimize life. You are here to inhabit it. Spiritually, discipline is an act of love. It is a daily vow to care for your body, mind, and purpose as sacred trusts. You make your bed not because it is impressive, but because order nourishes peace. You write your thoughts not to publish them, but to see yourself clearly. You move your body not to perfect it, but to express gratitude for its strength. When discipline becomes devotion, even mundane acts acquire holiness. In every spiritual tradition, from Stoicism to Zen, discipline is seen as the path to freedom. The Stoics called it ascesis, the practice of aligning conduct with virtue. The monks called it rule, a rhythm that liberates the mind from chaos. In modern terms, it is self-regulation, but at its core, it is love expressed through order. You do not create systems because you distrust yourself. You create them because you finally value yourself. This is the paradox that burnout could never understand. That structure, when chosen consciously, does not confine, it liberates. Chaos is not freedom. It is bondage to reactivity. When your days have shape, your spirit has space. When your systems are built around truth, your energy becomes renewable. You wake knowing what matters. You move with clarity. You rest without guilt. And yet, resilience is not only maintained by outer systems, but by inner rituals. The mind, too, needs structure, moments of reflection, pauses between transitions, habits of gratitude. These are not indulgences, but forms of mental hygiene. When your inner life is tended, the outer storms lose their power. You cannot prevent difficulty, but you can prepare the ground within yourself to withstand it. Eventually, Discipline ceases to feel like effort and becomes expression. You are no longer forcing yourself to live a certain way. You are simply honoring the truth of who you are. Routine turns into rhythm.